Tools for packed days. So if it's a packed day, said before, our goal is to have efficient meetings and allow for some multitasking. But at the start of the day, when we do our Invest 5, we do our usual priority and planning, but now we're more focused on the rescheduling and communicating any deadlines that we're going to miss. And the important thing here is don't feel guilty about not getting something done. Only feel guilty if you couldn't get something done and didn't communicate about it. So I should state that more positively since I'm on to this guilt-free thing. But so when you move a deadline, make sure it's communicated to the person that things have to be moved. So how can we make meetings more efficient? All meetings should be a good use of your time. If it's not, you need to make some changes. And part of making a meeting a good use of your time is focus. So, I have a reason to be there, and I should focus on that reason. So when I get really bored in a meeting, it's like, oh wait, why am I here? Oh yeah, because I'm representing my team at this technology council, or because I'm trying to learn something, and that helps me stay focused. I'm listening for those keywords. But who's responsible for making a meeting effective? I think it's 50-50. The attendees have about half the responsibility for making meetings effective, and the facilitators, or facilitator of the meeting, is responsible for the other half. So first, let's talk about how we ourselves can make meetings more effective. Arriving on time. If everyone arrives 5 minutes late, you're often repeating material. Either way, you're wasting people's time. And on time doesn't mean just that you're there, but you're quiet and ready to go, that your AV requirements are set up before the meeting starts, and everyone pays attention. So not reading email, chatting online. The meetings that I facilitate, we have an exception. If you're on call or on duty, then you can have your laptop. Otherwise, we have like a no laptop policy. And holding back from the funny comments. I used to work at a company where our culture was that if there was something funny to say, it was practically your duty to say it. And we had these hilarious meetings, oh my God, and they were all like 2 hours long. And then one day someone said, we just got to start getting work done. Let's cut back the comments. And meetings, like, boom, they were like a half an hour long. Not as fun, but more efficient. We had to strike a balance. How to pay attention. So if you're unable to pay attention at a meeting, volunteer to be the note taker. Because now you're paying attention and you're useful. And if your boss is in the room, it's like, oh, Tom was always so helpful. He takes notes. If you're unable to resist email and chatting, then don't bring your laptop. That's a little redundant. Okay, so now if you're the facilitator, what can you do to make a more efficient meeting? Most important thing, it's at the top of the list for the reason, is have a written agenda. And if you can't think of anything to put on the agenda, then maybe you don't need to have that meeting. So you want to arrive on time, you're on AV needs. I recently told a very high-ranking person that I'm tired of coming to his status meetings, and he spends the first 10 minutes of the meeting getting his laptop to work. It's like, you need to either come 10 minutes early or use someone else's laptop because yours never seems to work. And also, as a facilitator, it's your duty to end the meeting on time. In fact, end it early. In our calendar system, a bunch of us have started scheduling meetings for 50 minutes instead of 60 minutes. It helps you be on time for the next meeting. Is there a hand up? Oh, yeah. Also, when you get to the end of the agenda, end the meeting. I have one coworker, when we get to the end of the agenda, he says, okay, open forum. I'm like, oh, no, open forum at my desk. Project time. Also recognize that there's different types of meetings. Informational meetings, where it's more of an announcement followed by Q&A, should be structured differently. And maybe you want to, in large meetings, structure your Q&A. There's Google Moderator is it's on App Engine, and you can set up, people can submit comments or questions, and other people can vote on them. So as the moderator, you can just, answer the top ranked questions. There's discussion meetings where really as facilitator, you're trying to facilitate a discussion, which means you want to talk as little as possible. You just want to encourage the discussion, and then maybe towards the end of the meeting, try to get to some consensus. And then there's status meetings, where you give each person maybe 1 minute to give a status. Lately, there's been a trend where I work to eliminate the status meetings. We have too much status meetings. But my preferred technique is to have the facilitator have a stopwatch or a timer. Say, yeah, everyone gets 1 minute, and there's 20 of us, and it's a half-hour meeting, so we're really going to keep to the time. And as facilitator, you're the traffic cop that prevents discussions. You can let the agenda manage the meeting. This works really well. If anyone that wants something on the agenda can add it to a wiki or some kind of online documentation system, then the agenda writes itself. As facilitator, maybe your job is just reorder the items to plan the path of the meeting. But once you start doing this, it works really well because people feel more empowered because they're building the agenda. But also you can set up a policy like if there's no agenda items 12 hours prior to the meeting's automatically canceled. Or if you work in multiple time zones, maybe the earliest time zone, when they'd be leaving work at the end of the day, if it's empty by then, it's canceled for the next day. I have a picture of what this looks like. It's sort of jammed. It's sort of like reading an eye chart. But imagine this is one long document instead of 2 columns. At the top of the document, I put sort of a meeting rules, like how often does it happen, who's invited, that the first meeting of the month is a little different than the others, that no new agenda items are allowed after 5 p.m. the previous day, and at 5 p.m. the meeting's canceled if there's no agenda items, and that our default agenda is this format: announcements, etc. And then the rest of the document is this list of date and agenda items. So people just go into this wiki and add the agenda items they want. So Bill added 1 item, Mary added another item. And then during the meeting, the note taker just inserts the notes into the agenda. So here's an older meeting. So if you read the document backwards, you get to older and older notes. So who attended, the agenda items are primary bullets, and secondary bullets are the notes that the note taker took. And so now you're building a history. The agenda's managing itself. It's a very efficient way to manage your meetings. And they get canceled. And the more meetings you can cancel, the better. How many people are like totally flooded with meetings? None. Okay, just a couple people. Good, good. So we can probably skip that. So how to have shorter meetings? Schedule them for 30 minutes, not 60. Meetings last as long as you schedule them. I already talked about ending early if you have nothing else to talk about. Oh, and feed people. Yeah, if people's mouths are busy, they're less likely to talk. So meetings go faster if you put bags of potato chips at the meeting. Yeah, just a little more unethical advice on how to facilitate meetings. And how do you deal with the bad facilitators? Darn it, we have to do something about bad facilitators. Everyone's responsible for taking that person aside and politely, in private, saying, hey, these meetings aren't running well, and give some suggestions. A coworker of mine recently published his meeting SLA. And you can't read this, but it's in the notes. I mean, he said, here's my budget for recurring meetings. Non-recurring meetings, as much as you want. If you need to meet with me for 10 minutes to work out some technical issue, no problem. Work on a design doc or something, no problem. But for recurring meetings, 12% of my time may be used for meetings. And I currently have these 2 one-hour meetings. It's my meeting budget, and here's the loopholes and meeting times and types. And it was magical. Everyone read it and was like, wow, everyone should have a meeting SLA. That's pretty cool.